The Nigerian Senate concludes the screening of the ministerial nominees in a painstaking process. Reactions are already trailing this as the nominees await confirmation from the Senate. The House of Representatives investigate a 400 billion naira airport remodeling project. Will they discover what lies underneath? What if the worst pops up and implicates the past administration of the aviation ministry? What then? Data feeds still coming through in one place simultaneously. Nigeria's Supreme Court upholds the election of Rochas Okorocha as duly elected governor of Imo State in the country's southeast region, as the Apex Court dismisses the appeal filed by Honorable Emeka Ihedioha challenging the election of Rochas Okorocha. Also, the Supreme Court throws out the Governor Wike's suit against the Rivers State Election Tribunal. Could this be victory? And for who? As fresh elections are ordered to take place within 90 days. Within the same period, elections will also take place in Akwa Ibom State in 18 local governments. Udom Emmanuel remains the governor there. We will throw more light on the two states later on the show, as Nigeria's newly appointed electoral boss, Mahmoud Yakubu, and 6 other regional representatives prepare for elections in the two states, including Bayelsa State in the south-south and Kogi in the central region. Data feeds still coming through. Now, the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, visits the new Oni of Ife, Adeye Ogunwusi, at Ile-Ife ahead of his planned visit abroad. The statesman paid homage just as the new king was presented to his people. The governor of the Apex Bank is expected to explain to the House of Representatives why bank customers should be made to disclose their bank verification numbers to third parties, especially while transacting business with BDC operators, as contained in the new guidelines. What will be the outcome of this new line of thought? Will the reps put a stop to this? Tweeted us. Let's know your thoughts on the subject. Members of MASSOB and IPOB protesting in eastern Nigeria get warning from the police. An agitation that has lasted from the 1960s. Is this a mirage for the agitators or not? 1 minute, it's unity as a country being preached. The next minute, what do you know? Protests on the streets. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, the NNPC, plans to introduce commercial certainty in the sale of Nigeria's crude grades in the international market starting from January 2016. Will this aid the government's anti-corruption crusade in the sector? Already, 278 firms applied in the bid process for the purchase and sale of Nigeria's crude, but the NNPC will deal with just about 16 oil lifters, effectively cutting down the number from 43, and still in that sector with regards to an alleged $20 billion gone missing. News of the former Minister of Petroleum Resources in Nigeria, who has hardly been able to wriggle herself out of the myriads of allegations of corruption against her person, have not been heard, especially with regards to rotting Nigeria's oil corporation in the ministry in her time. President Muhammadu Buhari has met with CEOs of Indian companies with interest in Nigeria, promising his administration's commitment to maintaining macroeconomic stability. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari urged the chief executives to expand their company's investment in Nigeria, quote, so that we can together turn our engagements into a win-win situation for our two countries, end of quote. Now, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, has lauded the performance of the officers and men of the Nigerian Army in the fight against insurgents in Adamawa State, northeast Nigeria. Will the military meet the 3-month deadline ordered by the President? It's prime time in Lagos, and this is State of the Nation. You're watching State of the Nation. I am Gimba Umar. Information still coming through on all our social media platforms. Channelstv.com, youtube.com/channelsweb. Tweets at Gimba003. Let's know your thoughts on the subject. Call it a season of tribunal judgments and you won't be wrong. In Yobe State, the Election Petition Tribunal upheld the governor, Ibrahim Gaidam. In Plateau State, the story is the same. Solomon Lalong retains the position as governor when the Election Petition Tribunal ruled. In Ogun State, Ibikunle Amosun. In Oyo State, Abiola Ajimobi. In Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa. In Lagos State, Akinwumi Ambode. All had their elections valid, with the latest coming from Imo State for Rochas Okorocha. Two states, however, Rivers and Akwa Ibom State, aren't so lucky. All things being equal, Rivers will go into full elections within 90 days of the tribunal's judgment. Akwa Ibom, on the other hand, will have elections in 18 local governments. In an interview with Barrister Yusuf Asama Kadri, a legal practitioner and an arbitrator on the challenges that lie ahead for the two states, we spoke to him and this is what he had to say. Mr. Yusuf Kadri, we want to thank you so much indeed for coming on State of the Nation. Let's start with the tribunals. Of course, you've been watching and seeing how the judgments have come out, some in favor of some of the state governors and others, unfortunately, not. What's your general assessment of the tribunal judgments so far?
The judges are doing their work. The cases are being heard within the time frame prescribed by the Constitution and the Electoral Act for conclusion of proceedings, election petition proceedings, which are drawing to an end now. And so far, so good.
You've said so far, so good. It's good for some and not really good for others. How do you reconcile that?
It's bringing surprises, in different ways, the different judgments, and then also novel issues of law are being tested. For the first time, issues like the use of the card readers and whether or not electronic voting is the way to go, and or if the card readers, amount to electronic voting or otherwise, and then also accreditation processes and a lot of issues. And so for the first time, these issues are being tested in our courts. And we do know that some of them are going to go on appeal to the Court of Appeal, and of course for the governorship election petition cases, maybe as far as the Supreme Court. But ultimately, it will help to set some precedents, on issues pertaining to, the use of the card readers in our accreditation system, and how we're going to go, going forward with respect to electronic voting itself, which for now it's incompatible, it's not allowed by our Constitution.
What do you make of the case of the PDP crying foul? Olisametu, the National Publicity Secretary of the PDP, actually is pointing accusing fingers at the APC, saying that the APC is doing all it can to grab or take over its strongholds, especially the states of Akwa Ibom and River State.
Well, first of all, I want to say that all the judgments that have been rendered so far are all big. I don't want to think that anyone is bigger than the other. We've had favorable judgments given in Delta State, where the election of the governor was upheld. So these things vary. Quite frankly, I avoid dabbling into the issues that are not backed up by facts, because for a judge to arrive at a judgment, the judge is expected, to decipher, do a holistic assessment and evaluation of the facts presented before him, the evidence adduced by the parties, and then of course the legal principles applied to the facts and the evidence, and then do a holistic evaluation before arriving at a conclusion, and as to whether or not a particular election is in compliance with the Electoral Act.
What do you make of the trend where technocrats are being encouraged to take the leading seat when it comes to politics and have themselves rooted in politics and bring about the needed change that has been so much talked about?
We've had instances, over and over again in the past, where technocrats have come in and then taken political positions and they couldn't really perform. So for me, it's not so much about technocrats, because largely we've always had technocrats operating in a political landscape.
But you know the records of the Akwa Ibom State Governor now, Udom Emmanuel. He has been in the banking sector. He rose to a height there. He has also been a commissioner for his state. Is this credential enough for him to aspire more?
I want to believe that he has what it takes to be a governor. He had worked with Zenith Bank. I think he rose quite high up to the top management level. Then he was appointed by the then governor of Akwa Ibom State, Akpabio, as Commissioner for Finance. And I want to believe for him to be found fit enough to have been nominated as gubernatorial candidate of the PDP and ultimately to have won the election, he was found to possess what it takes to govern Akwa Ibom State. Legal issues arising from the judgment and further steps that are going to be taken against the judgment, if indeed that is pursued, or political issues that will arise from a rerun.
Going into elections now, if we do get to that point, how do you suppose this would pan out for especially River State, and then almost half of the whole of Akwa Ibom State is going into elections?
It's a contest, and I think it's going to be interesting. This is not going to be the first time we've had rerun, elections nullified and rerun done.
Do you suppose that this scenario has put pressure on INEC, especially now that it has a new boss in charge going into a possible elections in the next 90 days, even starting with the Bayelsa state elections and the Kogi state election?
INEC has its work cut out for it. And INEC should be ever ready to get on the field, get their ass together, and hit the ground running.
So what will be your final word?
I think largely we're moving in the right direction. It's not perfect yet. We still have a lot of hurdles. We still have a long way to go. But we just need to continue to improve on it, work at it, and continue to improve the way we run the society.
Yusuf Kadri, I want to thank you so much indeed for your time and your thoughts.
Thank you too.
Strong legal thoughts and implications, if you ask me. Many will be watching, though, on how the case will be at the appeal if it comes to that. For now, the tribunals have given their judgments. We'll go on a short break. State of the Nation returns in a moment. Join us again.